What's going on, YouTube fam? It's your boy Tony 2 times, and we back with another episode of the Baltimore Way, man. Before I start, be sure to tap that like button. It's free. It helps get the video out there. Definitely watch this video to the end to hear the full story and all the details in the case. For my day one fam, y'all already know it's all love. Thanks for tuning back into another episode. If you're new to the channel and you feeling the content, feel free to subscribe. Definitely hit that notification bell so you can be notified every time we drop a new video. Oh yeah, feel free to share the channel with your peoples. Everybody is welcome. Before I get into this story, I just want to say it's a requested video. But with that being said, let's get right into the story. In life, for some, their friendships and bonds mean everything to them. When you grow up with somebody, play in the streets together, go to school with each other, your mother knows their mother, y'all watch each other go through growing pains, turn from kids to adults, it's no greater relationship. It feels more like a brotherhood or sisterhood. It's definitely something to hold on to. As life goes on, people go off to do different things and take different paths. But the love for your day one homies will always be there. Some people have careers, kids, families, but still make time to go have a few drinks or chop it up with the people they call friends. In certain situations, things can take a turn though. Say for instance, your right-hand man you grew up with moves away to another city or state, or even worse, he gets jammed up on a charge and has to go sit and do some time. Through that time and distance, for some, it strains relationships. You continue on with life, while they have to go through what they have to go through. If you have a solid homie, they might send you a few dollars, slide for a visit or two, send some flicks, but for most, life keeps on lifing and it's out of sight, out of mind. But as years go by, we like to remember the good times and our peoples just how they were when we were the closest. Not knowing sometimes life separates us for a reason. People change, situations change, and who you knew yesterday might be a totally different person today. And when you don't know the true feelings of your so-called friends and family, things can take a crazy turn. And on this episode of the Baltimore Way, we'll be discussing the case of a man who took care of his homie while he was in prison for years just for him to come home and take his life. Last year, 27-year-old Taja Addison was in the prime of his life. Described as a protector, very loyal to his family and friends, hard worker, and the life of the party. Always willing to laugh, joke, dance, and cut up with his peoples. The father of two boys, ages 8 and 5, his kids were his main focus. He was a very active father, even being an assistant coach and overly with his oldest son played little league football. To make ends meet and provide, Taja worked at a junkyard, pulling parts for customers. But he also started his own mobile mechanic business. Far removed from the streets, he was a family man who wanted to make sure his peoples was good. If he had it, he made sure everybody else had it as well. A huge Baltimore Ravens fan, if it was a home game, you could catch him down the stadium rooting for the home team. Outside of that, Taja had a homie, a friend he had known for years, who he looked at like a brother. He was 27-year-old Matthew Crawley. Matthew had been gone for a minute, catching a charge years prior, which landed him of Hagerstown. But Taja never forgot about his homie. For 9 years straight, he put money on his books, took Matthew's mother up there to see him if she didn't have a ride, and made sure he took care of any business his homie needed him to take care of out here in the free world. So in March 2025, Taja was excited. His road dog was finally coming home. When Matthew was released, Taja was right there and even took him shopping. On March 6th, as the two vibed, talked about old times, reminisced, Taja thought it was all love. A few hours later, Matthew and Taja were on Yale Avenue in Southwest Baltimore, by where Matthew was living at the time. Matthew told him, like, yo, I'll be right back, and got out the passenger side of the car. As Taja sat, waiting for his homie to come back, shots went off. Broad daylight around noon, neighbors who heard the shots called BPD. When they responded to the 700 block of Yale Avenue, they found Taja suffering from 3 gunshot wounds, 2 to the upper body and 1 to the face. And unfortunately, he was pronounced gone on the scene. The only leads police had at first was 3 shell casings around the vehicle, until one neighbor came to them with Ring video footage from their home. It showed the man get out of the car with Taja, circle the car a few times before upping the gun, shooting through the driver's side window. It appeared the gun jammed, and the shooter fixed it and kept shooting, before then bopping off. Police quickly got word the shooter lived in the area, only a few doors down from the incident, and everybody was pointing to the man in the video as Matthew. When police pulled up on him, he was surprisingly laughing before being taken into custody for the homicide of his friend. Another Ring camera on the house Matthew was living at caught him coming in the house after the shooting, leaving back out and throwing a weapon in the area, which police found not long after the incident. Taja's family was devastated after hearing the terrible news, but they were even more heartbroken. The man he called friend and brother was responsible for taking his life after he took care of him for years. He even was right there as soon as his mans came home to take him shopping. Matthew was charged with first-degree hit and being a felon in possession of a firearm. As Taja's family and friends were left to pick up the pieces and, even though hurt, celebrate his life, they did in style. They laughed, joked, and everybody was dressed to a T, with smiles on their face, dancing, heads up, chin high, as he would want them to be. But it was still a dark cloud and a lingering question: how could a so-called friend snake his mans after he looked out for him for years? It was a lot of delays in the court proceedings, but in October 2025, Matthew's trial started. He walked into the courtroom to face Taja's family, in which he showed no remorse or emotion. He held his head down like he was sleeping the whole time, as the evidence against him was read out by prosecutors, who deemed his actions cold and calculated. Taja's family thought they would finally get answers, but it was complete silence even after a jury found Matthew guilty on all charges. He gave no reason or showed no remorse. He is scheduled for sentencing in February of this year. Rest in peace to Taja. I send my prayers and condolences to his family, especially his boys who lost their father so young. His family is definitely hurting without him and trying to pick up the pieces and cope with the situation the best way they know how. Some say Matthew was simply jealous of Taja and took his life. Others feel like it's a lot deeper. But like we was talking about earlier, a lot of us base our whole reputation on being solid, a real person or a friend, taking care of our peoples, thinking everybody we say we love loves us back. People smile in family and friends' faces every day, but whole time, deep inside, they hold on to jealousy, envy, hate, and it's hard to see when you are blinded by loyalty and love. Taja did something a lot of people don't normally do. I know very few did it for me. He took care of his homie at his lowest point in life, when he couldn't take care of himself, sitting in a cell. Just for him to come home and snake him after 9 years. That goes to show it's a thin line between so-called friends and enemies. And sometimes, unfortunately, we don't realize until it's too late. Yeah, man, terrible situation. Tragic story. Rest in peace to Taja. I definitely send my prayers and condolences to his family. But I ain't gonna talk too much more about this one. Y'all leave it in the comments. Be sure to tap that like button if you're feeling the content. I appreciate you if you made it to the end. Y'all already know it's all love, fam. This is another episode of the Baltimore Way. It's your boy Tony 2 times. I'm out. What's going on, YouTube, fam? It's your boy Tony 2 times, and we back with another episode of the Baltimore Way, man. Before I start, y'all know what to do. Be sure to tap that like button. Definitely watch this video to the end so you can hear the full story. For all my day one fam, y'all already know it's all love. Thanks for tuning back into another episode. If you're new to the channel and you're feeling the content, feel free to subscribe. Definitely hit that notification bell so you can be notified every time we drop a new video. On this episode of the Baltimore Way, we'll be doing something a little different. We're going to be discussing one of my favorite TV shows from the city, The Corner, and shedding light on one of the main characters, Gary McCullough, played by the late great T.K. Carter. Really, we will be discussing the whole family, but I just wanted to pay homage to T.K. and how well he played the role. Now, for some of you that have never heard of the TV show The Corner, it was a show written by David Simon, who also wrote or helped write many other shows about the city, including The Wire and We Own This City. Another writer, David Mills, who unfortunately passed away in 2010, and the show was also directed by Baltimore's own Charles Dutton, which many of us probably know or remember from the TV show based out of Baltimore, Rock, where he played a trash man. He also starred in many other movies and shows, including Menace to Society, in which he played Sharice's father. The show aired in April of 2000 on HBO. It was based on a real family living and trying to survive the streets, addiction, and the open-air drug market of West Baltimore in the 90s. West Fayette and North Monroe Street, to be exact. The main characters in the family was 15-year-old DeAndre McCullough, nicknamed Black, played by an actor we all know, Sean Nelson, who starred in the movie Fresh, The Wood, and many others. His mother, who was trying to keep him on the right track while battling addiction herself, was Francine Boyd, played by Candy Alexandra, who played in CB4, Sugar Hill, Poetic Justice, and many more shows and movies. Fran's ex-husband, Andre's father, was Gary McCullough, who also fell to the sickness of addiction and was trying to shake back while being a father, played by the late great T.K. Carter, who played in many movies and shows also, including Good Times, Just Our Luck, the Bobby Brown movie, and many more. The thing that made this show so special is because it was based on real life. And if you come from Baltimore, you can definitely relate to everything, the streets, or if you grew up like me, trying to fight to survive, stay off the corners, and coping and trying to understand a parent who was fighting the struggle of addiction while trying to take care of you. But the family story didn't start right there. Gary was smart. He came from a good family and grew up in what some consider the old Baltimore, where people were neighborly, spoke, corrected each other's kids, and drugs in the city wasn't that bad just yet. He met Fran and the two took a liking to each other. She was a pretty girl from around the way. Her and Gary both had big dreams. They started kicking it. Then he went off to college. Around about that time, she found out she was pregnant with DeAndre. Gary was excited to have a child, so he came back home, landed a good job, and had dreams of taking care of his family and living happily ever after. He moved them to a nice home out the way, but now married, his wife at the time, which Fran stated out her own mouth, liked to party and have fun. So while Gary was at work, she would throw parties. And of course, back in the 80s, when they were together, partying was different. Girl, boy, harder drugs wasn't frowned upon. She grew an addiction, and Gary tried hard to hold on, but the family drifted apart as Fran and DeAndre went to live with her family in West Baltimore. Gary, unfortunately, because of some bad company he was keeping, he also fell victim to the peer pressure of addiction and started also getting high and lost the house. He moved in with his mother and father in West Baltimore, not too far from Fran and DeAndre. As Dre started getting older, he was fighting the temptation of making some money and hustling at a time in the 90s in the Baltimore streets, which was jumping, making millionaires. He fought with that thought because he saw what drugs did to his mother and father. But now, Fran had another son as well, different father, and by age 15, DeAndre felt he had to do something to take care of him and his little brother. So he jumped out there. Fran and his mother tried her best to keep him away from the corners, but she really couldn't say much because she was fighting her own demons. She had a circle of family and friends who also got high, and every day, like many addicts, it was a constant fight to get out the gate or try not to be sick. Get your product of choice so you can feel normal. Gary would see DeAndre and would chop it up with his son, but at first, Dre didn't have much rap for his father, feeling like he let him down. But still not wanting to see him sick, he would throw him a few dollars and pass him. Gary and Fran were cordial. They even hung out sometimes. She felt Gary was too smart to be out there chasing and often told him, "You shouldn't have never started. This is not the life for you." but he was in too deep. Fran often tried to get clean for DeAndre and her other son's sake. She got a job and all, but that slow, sober kind of life just wasn't for her at first, and she would often relapse. Gary wasn't ready, but he was also a kind man with a good heart, which in Baltimore can get took for weakness. He didn't want to do things that other people around him was doing, like breaking into houses, robbing, or stealing packs, because he felt it just wasn't morally right. He knew he was also doing wrong, but also had dreams of shaking back. See, they was the family. Before they fell, they made it out. And when they fell off, of course, everybody kicked them when they was down, even though Gary looked out for everybody when he was up. DeAndre was by this time all in. He had a crew, was hustling, getting into shootouts, and fighting his own battles, being a teen in Baltimore. He had met a young lady and also had a baby on the way. Him and his father would try to get cool, and he often showed glimpses of their old life when he saw DeAndre hooping with his friends. He would come over and shoot around with his son. I'm speeding up because I will be forever breaking down the whole show. But one day, Fran looked around and said to herself, that's it. After a few failed relationships, family treating her and her kids bad, not being able to provide like a mother, she went to get clean and went and got her and her sons a place away from everybody in the neighborhood. But by this time, Dre was stuck. A lot of his crew had lost their lives or started getting high themselves. And sadly, one day, he decided to try his own product. From there, he was hooked. Now out there, just like his father and mother once was, Gary would try to talk to his son, and Fran would as well. And for years, Gary was trying to get it right. He kept a job at a crab place so he wouldn't have to beg and steal. He even got DeAndre a job as well, in which he quit. But unfortunately, Gary wasn't able to beat his addiction, and he would OD in his parents' basement. Fran moved to Baltimore County and stayed clean, but Dre couldn't never get back. He would go to rehab, get breaks. He even got an acting gig, playing in a role in The Wire, another show from the city, which he did good, but his addiction was too strong. While his mother had moved on off the corners, even got married to a man named Larry Andrews, who The Wire's Omar Little was loosely based on. His mother was finally clean and Gary was gone, but Dre was still struggling with his past, losing friends to the streets, family, and in 2012, he started going down a dark path. He robbed a pharmacy in Baltimore, not for money though. He told them he only wanted the pills. He was just trying not to be sick. And after years of struggling with addiction, at age 35 in 2012, Dre was found in the house gone from an OD like his father. Even through all that, Fran stayed clean. Her husband Donnie also passed away in 2012. But in 2022, she passed away as well at age 65 in Parkville, Baltimore County. I always watch The Corner, even now. But what made me revisit this heartbreaking but real life story from my city was the recent passing of T.K. Carter, who the family stated played Gary so good they cried in multiple episodes. He lost his battle earlier this month to health issues, and after a welfare check, he was found gone in his own home. People who never saw the show, even if you are not from Baltimore, be sure to check it out. It's the reality of a lot of young men and women just trying to survive. And when people always ask why you don't go get a better life, just leave. Or say, well, addiction is a choice. It will help you understand the cycle of good people struggling, trying to cope and get out of a messed up situation. But rest in peace to the real Dre, Fran, Gary, Donnie, and also TK. If you have struggled not only with addiction, but just trying to break a cycle of generational curses, let me know your experiences in the comments. Yeah, man, I had to do something a little different for y'all. I wanted to cover this, of course, because of TK, but definitely a lot of people just don't know about the struggles people go through fighting every day. Demons, you know, I got family members, my mother, rest her soul, people who dealt with this. You know, I had battles myself over the years. But yeah, I ain't gonna talk too much more about this one. Y'all leave it in the comments. I appreciate you if you made it to the end. It's another episode of the Baltimore Way. It's your boy Tony 2 times. Love, fam. I'm out.
It's your girl y'all, Mrs. Tony Two Times, and I'm back with another episode of the Baltimore Way. In this video, I'll be discussing the tragic story of Kenaya Ward, a 16-year-old who struggled mentally and ultimately ended it all under what was supposed to be supervised care. But before we get into this video, please hit that like button. Also, make sure you subscribe if you haven't already and join the Tony Two Times family. Tap the notification bell so you don't miss any future uploads. And of course, feel free to share this video with everyone you know. All right, let's get into it. Kenaya Ward, born just 2 days before Christmas in 2008, was a teenager defined by her brilliance and her sweetness. She was a bright light, a girl whose smile filled a room. She was the kind of person who lived in the worlds of her imagination. She was often found with her nose buried in a book or a pencil in her hand, sketching out the life of the artist everyone knew she was destined to be. She loved animals, she loved to joke, and she had a deep innate sense of caring for others. To her mother, she wasn't just a daughter. She was her everything. Her mother lovingly called her Big Baby K. Kenaya's creativity and joy inspired those closest to her. But behind the vibrant drawings and the infectious laughter, Kenaya was fighting a battle that many adults struggle to articulate, let alone a 16-year-old girl. She lived with the heavy shadows of clinical depression and PTSD. As she entered her mid-teens, the light began to flicker. Her family, desperate to protect her, found themselves in a position no parent ever wants to be in. They had a child in crisis and nowhere to turn. Kenaya lived with her mother and grandparents in Prince George's County. But by 2019, the state was already in the periphery of Kenaya's life. Records show her family was receiving support for therapy and child management. But as Kenaya got older, her struggles intensified. She began running away. Her mental health challenges became a danger to her own safety. Her family was desperate. They didn't want to lose her. They wanted to save her. But in the healthcare system that often feels like a complex web, they hit wall after wall. Eventually, she was placed in the care of the Prince George's County Department of Social Services. The hope was that the state could provide the specialized residential treatment that a private family simply couldn't access. For a moment, there were glimpses of a future. In early 2022, there was a request for Kenaya to go on a college tour in Florida, a sign of her potential and her dreams. She was enrolled at the Augusta Fells Savage Institute of Visual Arts in West Baltimore, a place where her talent for drawing could have flourished. But the normal moments were constantly interrupted by a cycle of placements, discharges, and waiting lists. By July 2025, Kenaya was tired. She told her workers she wanted to be finished with the system. But the system wasn't done with her. It just didn't know what to do with her. In August, a residential program gave her 72 hours notice before discharging her. Social services scrambled. They called 5 different facilities. None would take her. She was put on a wait list. She didn't meet the criteria for emergency hospitalization, yet she was too vulnerable to be left alone. The state's temporary solution? Room 1109 at the Residence Inn by Marriott on the Johns Hopkins Medical Campus. This wasn't a licensed treatment center. There were no doctors on site, no nurses, no specialized security. To bridge the gap, the state hired a private contractor, Fenwick Behavioral Services, to provide one-on-one supervision. The rules were strict. A worker had to stay awake 24/7, perform hourly checks, and keep all medication in a locked box. But on September 20th, the safeguards began to crumble. A single staffer was assigned to watch Kanaya. That shift was supposed to end, but when a replacement called out sick, the worker stayed, then stayed longer. By the morning of Monday, September 22nd, that single individual had been on duty for a staggering 53 continuous hours. Imagine the exhaustion. Imagine the lapse in judgment that comes when the brain has gone 2 days without sleep. At 5:45 a.m., the worker checked on Kanaya. The teen reportedly responded but didn't get up. The worker, believing the girl was a heavy sleeper, didn't return to the hotel room for several hours. Meanwhile, in that room, the very things meant to be locked away, medications, were accessible. When the worker finally returned at 10:30 a.m. to wake Kanaya for school, the heavy sleeper wasn't moving. A 911 call captured the haunting realization. The caregiver told dispatchers, "I have no idea what happened. She's not breathing and she's cold." When the dispatcher asked if the worker could perform CPR, the answer was a heartbreaking, "I don't know how to." Take a listen.
I have no idea what happened. I'm a one-on-one for a client, and I went to wake her up for school, and she didn't wake up.
Is she breathing?
No.
She's not breathing?
No.
Okay.
And she's cold.
Okay, she's cold. Can you do
Yes.
CPR? Are you willing to do CPR?
I don't know how.
At the foot of the bed, investigators found an empty bottle that had once contained 365 pills of diphenhydramine, the active ingredient in Benadryl. Kanaya's life ended on the very day she was scheduled for a follow-up assessment to finally get the treatment she had been waiting for. The aftermath was a storm of investigations. The Maryland Department of Human Services launched a probe that found the contractor, Fenwick Behavioral Services, grossly negligent. They cited the marathon shift and the failure to secure the medication as the primary factors that led to this tragedy. The police investigation labeled it a questionable case before the medical examiner officially ruled it an intentional overdose. 2 days after Kanaya passed, the state stopped all referrals to Fenwick. By November, the public outcry was so great that Maryland officially banned the practice of housing foster children in hotels. However, the path to justice has been a frustrating one for Kanaya's family. The Baltimore City State's Attorney's Office declined to bring criminal charges, stating that while the neglect was tragic, there was insufficient evidence to prove criminal intent beyond a reasonable doubt. The contractor's owner has denied the findings of neglect and vowed to appeal. Kanaya Ward's story isn't just about one tired worker or one empty pill bottle. Kanaya's story is not about one bad decision. It's about a system stretched so thin that unsafe options become routine. It's like the system treats the most vulnerable people like a game of musical chairs. And when those chairs ran out for Kanaya, they put her in a hotel. Her family's attorney, Thomas Doyle, put it best. She shouldn't have been in a hotel. She needed treatment. We have to ask the questions. Why are we waiting until a young person is in the foster system to provide mental health resources? Why are private contractors allowed to work their staff into a state of delirium while tasked with guarding a human life? Kanaya was a bright, artistic soul who just wanted to be finished with the struggle. She deserved a hospital bed, a therapist, and a safe path to her future as an artist. Instead, she was left in a suite, caught in the gap between a family who couldn't get help and a state that didn't know how to give it. And if her story doesn't force meaningful change, then the system hasn't learned anything at all. Rest in peace, Kanaya. May your story be the catalyst that ensures no other young person is ever placed in a room where they are left to face their darkest moments alone. Fam, tell me your thoughts on this tragic and unfortunate loss. Let's keep the conversation going in the comments below. All right, fam, that's it for this episode of the Baltimore Way. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video informative and believe these stories matter, please consider liking this video so more people can see it. Subscribe for more stories like this that deserve to be heard. And most importantly, take care of yourself and those around you. This is your girl, Mrs. Tony 2 times. Until next time.
What's going on, YouTube, fam? It's your boy Tony 2 times, and we back with another episode of the Baltimore Way, man. Before I start, be sure to tap that like button. It's free. It helps get the video out there. Definitely watch this video to the end so you can hear the full story and all the details in the case. For my day one fam, y'all already know it's all love. Thanks for tuning back into another episode. If you're new to the channel and you feeling the content, feel free to subscribe. Definitely hit that notification bell so you can be notified every time we drop a new video. Oh yeah, feel free to share the channel with your peoples. Everybody is welcome. With that being said, let's get right into the story. For parents, while raising kids, we want to guide them, teach them right from wrong, and one of the most important things, protect them. As our babies start to grow up, start going to school, being around other kids and adults, for some parents, that's an anxious time. You hope everything goes well, they behave themselves, and get along with the other kids. But as time goes on, things change, and conversations become different. You go from make sure you do your homework to watch the circle you keep. The people you call friends don't make no mistakes you can't come back from and be safe out here. But no matter how hard we try, it's certain lessons our kids gotta learn on their own, and certain things we just can't protect them from, especially around about those late teen years. To us, still at that time, they are still considered our babies, but to the world, they are viewed as a young man or a young woman. It's scary for most because we know how cold it is out here and how much people don't care and don't respect themselves enough to even respect others or life. We all pray our kids make it through and become a grown up and we can breathe a little bit. Like, okay, cool, they are good now, working, building their own life, safe and out the way. But what happens when you get that call, somebody hurt or tried to hurt your child? As a parent, what decision do you make? And on this episode of the Baltimore Way, we'll be taking it right outside of the city to Howard County, Maryland, to discuss the case of a mother whose son was robbed. She went to the police but ended up with 20 years for street justice. Back in 2024, 47-year-old Deneba Traymore was navigating life in Columbia, Maryland, a community in Howard County, in between Baltimore and DC. She had made a good life for herself and her family, as she was a devoted mother, daughter, and businesswoman, very involved in her community. But her main focus was being mama bad and making sure all her kids were taken care of and safe. Very outgoing, Deneba loved to live life, travel, and try new things. She was successful and her future seemed bright. But all that would change on a fall night in 2024. On October 7th, her teen son was somewhere when he was targeted by some hoppers or young teen boys. He was attacked, robbed at gunpoint, beat, and the whole incident was recorded and it circulated all on social media. Daniba, highly upset and wanting justice, she went to the local police station and filed a report about the incident. She even showed them the video and stated she knew a few of the kids. But being that no one was seriously injured, police were moving slow on their investigation, feeling like boys will be boys. A few days went by. Daniba became even more frustrated. She would call to see if anything was going on. She talked to neighbors in the community and was pleading for help. But police seemed to not be moving on the report, and there was nothing going on. She then went to one of the teens' homes. She heard who was involved with the robbery and tried to talk to his parents. But of course, they denied everything. So she found herself back at the police station, this time giving them a piece of her mind. She stated they could have been made an arrest and they were not taking the incident seriously. The last thing she said was, if y'all don't do anything, I will just have to take the next steps. On October 12th, 2024, some teen boys was hanging out in a shopping center in Columbia, Maryland. When a car creeped up, a person hopped out and shots went off before the vehicle fled the scene. Witnesses called local police, who responded to the location to find two teens, both suffering from gunshot wounds to their legs. Fortunately, both would be in stable condition and survived the attack. Witnesses stated a white SUV pulled up, glanced at the four teens before a person hopped out the back passenger seat, shooting. In a busy shopping center with a Giant, a local grocery store, a IHOP, and a Royal Farms, it didn't take long for police to get surveillance video that caught the whole incident. The car was a white Mercedes-Benz SUV with a sticker on the back, in which a few officers felt like they recognized the car. The tags were caught on camera, and after running the license plate, the vehicle came back, registered to Daniba. After police realized she was the same woman who made a report days prior about a robbery, they instantly felt she took the law into her own hands and went to get street justice. She was picked up and taken in for questioning. She stated she wasn't nowhere in the area and had no idea what happened. But with her car being in the video and also her cell phone pinging in that location not too long before the shooting, Daniba was taken into custody, charged with 2 counts of attempted hit. No physical evidence was ever found, and instantly the story was viewed by many as police not doing their job and trying to railroad or frame a mother who showed concern and put pressure on them to do what they were supposed to do. As the case made its way to trial, questions were asked by her attorney about the lack of evidence, even the 2 victims stating it wasn't a woman who shot them, but a man with a Louis Vuitton hat on. They both stated they were very positive the shooter wasn't a woman, but prosecutors stated Daniba's car was on the scene and phone pinged close by the location. Her lawyer fought back and stated the whole vehicle was swabbed for gunshot residue and nothing was found. It all seemed the case was circumstantial. As the jury listened, the prosecutors brought up the fact the mother was frustrated with police not doing nothing about her son, and they claimed it was a simple case of street justice, in which the jury eventually agreed. In the end, Daniba was found guilty on all charges and sentenced to 30 years, all suspended but 20 in prison. Her attorney and family were outraged and felt she was being railroaded, all because she expected police to do their job. A bunch of people felt this way and felt it was injustice, and Free Daniba campaigns were started everywhere. While incarcerated, tragedy would hit again when Daniba lost one of her sons, who she was very close to. She went to social media to express her love for her baby boy, but also to reflect on their memories they shared together. She was scheduled for a retrial back in August, but I'm not sure exactly what happened. As of now, she is serving her time in NCIW, Maryland Correctional Institution for Women. This story is crazy. This is one of them situations where you definitely can feel Daniba's pain and anger as a mother. She followed citizen protocol. Something happens, they say go to the police, but they did nothing about the situation. It could very well be a coincidence. Shorty and them got shot days later, especially if they was out here robbing and beating on people. But the video in her car is what got her convicted, even though the victims even stated it was a man who shot them. But I'm going to leave this one open for discussion. I want to know y'all thoughts on the situation. Do you think it was an open and shut case of street justice, or do you feel like Daniba was railroaded because of her pressure on police? Y'all let me know in the comments. Yeah, man, it's definitely a crazy situation. But I'm going to leave it open so y'all can let me know what y'all think about it. I definitely appreciate you if you made it to the end. Be sure to tap that like button if you're feeling the content. Y'all already know it's all love, fam. It's another episode of the Baltimore Way. It's your boy Tony 2 times. I'm out.